So history in the making, potentially today, ahead of round 19 of the Formula One World Championship in 2012. Either way, Sebastian Vettel or Fernando Alonso will be a three-time world champion. Only today, Sebastian Vettel can seal it. Will it be decided here in the United States of America, or will it go to Interlagos and the final round? We'll find out in another 56 laps around this brand new circuit. Build it and they will come, they say. Well, the Field of Dreams has been tarmacked over and it looks a tremendous sight. The grandstands absolutely packed out. A circuit that offers plenty. Overtaking could be tricky, but it's not going to be impossible. Lapping back markers, especially through the first sector, could be trickier still on a surface that is still very, very slippy and being used for the first time. There is not a cloud in the sky. Blue skies all over Texas, and here in Austin the temperature has risen along with the excitement and the anticipation for this US Grand Prix. And unsurprisingly, given that 40% of the tickets have gone to the Mexican fans, there's already a Mexican wave starting. They can't wait to see Sergio Perez in action. I can't wait to see what Fernando Alonso can do. Now he's on 7th on the grid, and Sebastian Vettel can do. Now he's sealed yet another pole position, his 36th in Formula One.
Well, let's hope we can put a great race on here. I mean, we're going to hear lots today about tyre temperature and the way that they come up and the way that the drivers are struggling to manage them, especially if there's a safety car situation. We know that Ferrari, it didn't work for them. They put a set of scrub tyres on for qualifying, and they've had to pull a few strokes since then, haven't they, to get Alonso back up the grid. And so he starts on a set of tyres there on that Ferrari. They've had two heat cycles as such. You must start on the tyres you did the fastest lap on. But let's see what he can do up into turn one. Vettel, I thought, seemed remarkably relaxed on the grid with everything. Lewis is out there just enjoying himself, isn't he? Mark Webber with the best view in the house probably of that particular fight into the first corner. Michael Schumacher did a tremendous job. Looking forward to seeing how he does in the race from 5th on the grid. 2 rows directly behind this man, Sebastian Vettel. And then it's really about Alonso's progress, isn't it? And when will they make their pit stops properly? That's the really difficult thing this afternoon. They've got to stop once in a dry race, guaranteed, of course, to change to the other type of tyre. They'll need some track space to feed back into to get rid of the traffic. Traffic's going to be an issue because some of these cars are so slow through the middle part of the lap.
It could be and should be a one-stop race, but there are plenty of different strategic variations out there. Vettel and Hamilton on the front row for the 10th time this season. Martin mentioned Michael Schumacher and his tremendous job in qualifying. Hulkenberg unlucky really to lose out and now start on the dirty side because of Ferrari's decision to give that man Felipe Massa a 5-place grid penalty. It puts Massa and Alonso on the clean side. What can they do from 7th and 11th? Don't expect much, says Sergio Perez from down in 15th spot in the Sauber. Already a weekend of celebrations for Marussia, out-qualifying the HRTs and the Caterhams for the first time ever, with both drivers ahead then of Petrov and Kovalainen, De La Rosa and Carter Kane, and Petrov for the 4th time in 6 races, out-qualifying his teammate. Charles Pique's had a little bit of bother, a smell of fuel in the cockpit as they were getting that car ready to come out onto the grid, but he's down there on the grid as the tyre blankets are now unwrapped for the formation lap, and the top 10 having to start on the tyres they qualified on. Below them, wouldn't be at all surprised to see plenty going for the hard compound tyre to run as long as they possibly can, and some teams saying actually you could do the whole race on them if you wanted to. Obviously you can't, because you've got to make at least one stop.
But according to this fancy computer we have here, only Button and Rosberg are on the silver mark. Actually hardly marked at all. Hard compound tyre, the primes the team call them. They apparently, although it's a harder compound tyre, it comes up to temperature more quickly, so we can see there, I think we can see the McLaren on the hard tyre in the middle of the pack there, Jenson Button. So only 2 of them have taken that route at the moment, Crofty.
Which might be, as Sergio Perez found out in Monza when he was on a different strategy to the rest of the field, the right way to go. We shall see as the cars now make their way and already making that long 40-metre climb up towards the first turn. Matt LeBlanc, who we spoke to on the grid, Patrick Dempsey alongside him in the Lotus garage, and now riding on board with Lewis Hamilton. The start is going to be oh so crucial here, because it's not just dirty side, clean side, it's the late braking and the dirty line into that first turn, but then with the track dropping away as well, you can have a balance very much disturbed by the undulations and find yourself all over the place and in no man's land before you know it.
It's quite a ribbon of tarmac, and a lot of those corners are quite heavily off camber, and of course the contour changes get lost with this high view. We'll see it more through the race. I think the drivers are loving the challenge of trying to master that series of corners. It's a little bit like out the first section in Suzuka, isn't it, at the back of there.
Okay, we know that everybody is on options apart from Button and Rosberg.
Kimi Raikkonen starting fourth on the grid. Don't forget where he started in Abu Dhabi last time out and managed to go on and take the victory.
So plenty of warming up of tyres going on. Left foot on the brake pedal. There's only two pedals on these cars, a stop and a go. Obviously the clutch and the gear shift is on the back of the steering wheel, as many of you will know who watch Formula One regularly. Those who don't, welcome, and we hope we can show you what these drivers are really made of this afternoon, because I think it's going to be quite challenging out there. This new surface will not yield enough grip at the moment. Pirelli came there with a very cautious tyre choice, and because they didn't want to affect the World Championship by going too racy. Ironically, they might do exactly that by being too conservative.
And here, turn 19, well, Sebastian Vettel just going through it, which has caused so much bother. Watch out for that in the opening laps whilst the tyres get up to temperature. See who will be running off, and plenty have already so far this weekend. Two titles up for grabs today. The Constructors' title that Red Bull will win for a third consecutive year if they score a minimum of 4 points, and the Drivers' title, which, as we've been saying all weekend long, could be Sebastian Vettel's if he outscores Fernando Alonso by 15 points. Jenson Button starts out of position. You mentioned the pedals, Martin, stop and go. It was the go pedal that did for Jenson Button. McLaren won't say exactly what, just it was a problem with the throttle. But he starts way down in 12th place, and Christian Horner, superstitious man, not wanting to count his chickens. Surely Red Bull have something to celebrate by the end of this race.
Look how they're all going down the right-hand side, the cleaner side of the track, before they pull over to their left-hand side of the grid slot, if they're on that side, as late as they can get away with. You have to be very careful when you're doing that. You don't miss your grid slot. But these things have got pathetic steering locked on them.
We've had 5 title deciders in the United States of America in the past. Are we on now for a 6th? As Adrian Newey watches on from the garage, and the 24 drivers on the grid look up to the lights. Everyone trying to get the best vantage point possible for what could be an historic US Grand Prix. It's 5 lights, and away we go, and Sebastian Vettel gets a decent start. Mark Webber already alongside Lewis Hamilton, and Michael Schumacher up into 4th place, and now they stream into that first turn. Sebastian Vettel stays out ahead. Lewis Hamilton has lost a place to Mark Webber. Fernando Alonso is up to 4th place. Nico Hülkenberg challenging Kimi Raikkonen now. It goes off the track, and he might have just got a bit of a puncture. We shall see. Cars going all over the place, but right out in front, it's Sebastian Vettel with a start that he had to make.
So Ferrari will take huge amount of stick for the trick they played to get Alonso up the field, but it's worked beautifully. He's up into 4th place. A great start, and then around the outside of turn 1, and you have to say it didn't look that bad after all we heard on the left-hand side. It wasn't great, but it didn't look that bad.
Lewis Hamilton lost the place, though. There were fears that the clean side of the grid would give you a 1-place advantage at the start, and Mark Webber has taken full advantage. It's Red Bull 1 and 2. Into the hairpin they go. That's one of the Saubers on Jenson Button. Kamui Kobayashi as we ride on board with Fernando Alonso chasing Lewis Hamilton down towards turn 12.
And Button's right back in 16th place. He's had an awful first lap, but dream ticket then, because in 4th place, Fernando Alonso keeps the championship alive. Long way to go yet, but that would keep the championship alive, whatever Sebastian Vettel could achieve.
And I've had a look at the weather forecast for Sao Paulo. It might rain next Sunday as well. You never know what might happen. Let's ride on board now with Sergio Perez down in 11th place, but not for long as he squeezes up past Bruno Senna, and there past Maldonado right behind his teammate after Senna made the better start on this opening lap. Through turn 16, 17 and 18 they go. Meanwhile, through turn 20, here comes Sebastian Vettel to complete the first lap, 7/10 ahead of his teammate Mark Webber, with Hamilton in third, Alonso in fourth, Schumacher fifth, Hulkenberg sixth, and then Raikkonen seventh, who lost places at the start, Grosjean eighth, to Resta up to ninth. Here comes Nico Hulkenberg on Michael Schumacher into turn one, makes the pass, but Schumacher, can he get a better traction as they plunge downhill now? It wasn't bad for the Mercedes, but Hulkenberg was just too far away, so Schumacher now down into 6th place, and Felipe Massa in 10th, completing the point scoring positions at the moment.
So the young German then comfortably passes the master up into turn one. Schumacher's got quite a queue behind him. He was already 2.7 seconds behind Alonso in front of him at the end of the first lap. That's an important move for Hulkenberg. Meanwhile, Hamilton fastest man in the first sector, and it looked Alonso was already a second behind him. So Vettel then with his rear gunner Webber nicely behind him.
And here goes Kimi Raikkonen, sorry Martin, down the inside of Michael Schumacher, desperate to make up those places that he lost at the start, and Raikkonen has popped himself up into 6th place past Schumacher as he starts down the back straight. Already Sebastian Vettel coming to the end of it, and we can look now wheel to wheel, Schumacher and Raikkonen, and Grosjean is in there as well, and Grosjean steams down the inside on Michael Schumacher. Raikkonen's lost out, thought he got past Michael Schumacher, but not to be. Grosjean now with the inside line, and Kimi Raikkonen diving down, but Schumacher closes the door, and they're going wheel to wheel, still Grosjean and Schumacher, and Grosjean locks up. Really tight corner this. Schumacher on the inside line, might be able to nick that position back, but no, not quite.
Grosjean was very lucky there that Michael Schumacher saw him coming. He was so committed, and apparently coming towards Schumacher at the time. He was let off very lightly there. Raikkonen will be furious to see all that going on. He thought he'd passed Schumacher. All of a sudden, he's now behind Schumacher again, and his teammate.
Who says you can't overtake and have exciting racing here? There was a fear that this track might not promote overtaking, but it's certainly done quite a bit in the first couple of laps, and now we have the DRS enabled as well to give those within a second of the car in front a bit of a helping hand down the back straight. Sebastian Vettel needs no helping hand. He's 1.4 seconds now ahead of his teammate Mark Webber.
Look at this, in clear air, Sebastian Vettel, a 1:46.3. In 4th place, Fernando Alonso, his championship rival, in clear air, a 1:48.9, 2.6 seconds slower as he waits for his tyres to come to him.
And in between them, Lewis Hamilton starting to get more heated grip into his tyres, going fastest overall through the first sector as he chases Mark Webber. If you want to ride on board with the championship leader Sebastian Vettel or Fernando Alonso or Lewis Hamilton, you can press your red button, Sky Race Control. Michael Schumacher, you can ride on board as well, as Jenson Button and Pastor Maldonado scrapping away there down the 13th and 14th. And look, I said Lewis Hamilton was going quickly. He managed to get past Webber, but went off the track in doing so, and Webber holds on to that 2nd place.
I think Lewis would have had to have yielded anyway, even if he'd have managed to come back on alongside him, as now Webber struggles to slow the car down. So remember, they've got about 160 kilograms of fuel over and above the 640 that the car weighs, including the driver. So it's about 25% heavier at the start of the race, and that is why they're really struggling to slow their cars down. 2nd
slowest corner on the track, turn 16, and it's proving quite problematic in these opening stages of the race with that fuel tank on board these cars. 1.8 seconds the advantage, Vettel and Webber. Hamilton now within that second. He'll try again as we look once more at the start. And it was a blinding start from Fernando Alonso on that 7th spot.
The engineers are right. It was about 1 grid slot, wasn't it, from the right-hand side. And look at Alonso, goes right around the outside and crucially takes Michael Schumacher, but gives him enough space. No contour, a little bit of bumping in the middle there, but no real body-crunching contact in there. So it's a Red Bull 1-2 at that point. And Lewis in 3rd, and probably actually about as good as he thought he could do. And there's the contact between Raikkonen and Hulkenberg. Got a Williams off there as well, Maldonado.
Fernando Alonso had obviously been warming up brakes and tyres to a great degree. They can ride on board now into the first turn and position that car just about perfectly, didn't he?
Did. And he left Schumacher space in case he understeered wide and ran into the side of him.
Now let's look on board from Kimi Räikkönen, who lost places at the start.
Yeah, way too much wheel spin. He got wheel spin in the second place, and there goes Hamilton then past Webber.
He's got it right this time. Webber will try and fight back as they go towards the next right-hander. But Hamilton, in a faster car at the moment than the second of the Red Bulls, at the second time of asking, has moved up into second place. Now they make their way through towards turns 17 and 18, that Turkey Turn 8 replica, and see how Hamilton is just accelerating away.
We've got a race on our hands, without doubt. Hamilton is absolutely flying. We know Vettel's topped every session so far in this event, Friday and Saturday. But even passing other cars, Hamilton has still gone faster than Vettel, including passing Vettel's teammate in that lap. They're miles clear then of Alonso in terms of pace too.
If it's the championship party for Sebastian Vettel, then maybe Lewis Hamilton is the man knocking at the door without an invite, saying that his mate John told him it was okay to join in the fun. Let's just watch again.
DRS assisted, of course. And we know that Red Bull was slowest in the speed traps down that back straight. They insist that that's the best way for them to go racing. But in wheel-to-wheel combat, they're in they have no strength.
Fantastic job, Lewis. Gap to Vettel, 2.5 seconds. We can catch him.
And he's already starting to do so as we head down to Ted Kravitz in the pits.
Jenson Button had made it past Pastor Maldonado, but now Maldonado has made the move again past him. So Jenson's still struggling to get heat into those harder tyres. It's going to take him another lap or two to get him fully up to temperature, but it does give McLaren good information on that different tyre so that they know what to do with Lewis Hamilton. We should expect Jenson Button to play the long game, maybe do the majority of the race, just do maybe the last quarter on the medium tyre. But yeah, Jenson really chasing a couple of Williams today.
And he's done well to get back ahead of Jean-Eric Vergne, who passed him at the start on the medium compound tyres. As we can look now, past Maldonado and Jenson Button wheel to wheel down that back straight. Maldonado on the inside line. There's Vergne just trying to dive down the inside as well. Gets squeezed out by Jenson Button, who holds on to that 14th place. But there's a cracking little scrap going on between the Williams, the McLaren and the Toro Rosso.
And the two men then on the hard compound tyre, Button 14, Rosberg 16. Of course, they started reasonably well back anyway, but it doesn't appear to be giving them an advantage right now.
You can catch Sebastian Vettel was the message to Lewis Hamilton. Vettel's just set a lap that is about 0.2 faster than Lewis Hamilton as he just opens up that advantage, 2.7 seconds out in front. We're watching now Jenson Button crossing the line to complete lap 5. Button down in 14th place, back to Hülkenberg and Grosjean. There's the scrap for 5th and 6th at the moment. Grosjean managing to keep his nose clean and, more importantly, nose on in the opening laps and make up positions as well.
In any spun that around, the back end stepped out on him.
And while that was going on, Jenson Button and Pastor Maldonado, part 5. Got the inside line, but it's very dirty under braking into that first turn. I think the hill helps a touch.
Yeah. Hill always helps you break that much later then.
Like there, Grosjean, but he's gone too deep. And Hülkenberg says thank you very much. That's the replay that we were seeing from just before. We saw them coming down the hill and going up it. Well, it was a brave attempt, but there's just not much grip there if you leave your braking that inch too late.
I think when you do a move like that, you have to commit to it. If you do it half-heartedly, it's like a hospital pass, I think they call it in rugby, and you're going to be in trouble.
Ricciardo now ahead of his teammate Jean-Eric Vergne and has moved up into 15th place. Bruno Senna right behind Sergio Perez. That's a battle for 11th and 12th, and Felipe Massa right in the thick of that as well, behind Michael Schumacher as Vettel sets another fastest lap of the race, and Lewis Hamilton responds, and the gap down to 2.6 seconds. And who's this? A spinning Lotus for Romain Grosjean.
Yeah, it is Grosjean.
And it's turn 19, first to be caught out at turn 19, and he's going to be passed by Massa, who's ahead of Michael Schumacher, and Schumacher gets ahead of Grosjean as well.
Grosjean did all the hard work, took the risks, and let's see. I mean, I don't think he'd been trying to pass down there into turn 19, and it's cost himself a lot of track space there and put himself right in a scrap.
And he's lost another place as well here. Sergio Perez swoops past him. Bruno Senna, who almost ran into the back of Perez, now almost runs into the back of Grosjean as well, as we can see this snake of cars winding their way through the S's section. What a procession that is. It's like an old wagon train from the Wild West days. It's fabulous.
As they snake their way up the hill. So they're 44 seconds ahead of the last man, Karthikeyan, at the moment. That's in 6 laps. So it's only going to be another 6 or 7 laps when the leaders start lapping the field.
Yeah, the estimate was about 13 laps before the back markers start getting lapped. And if you're behind Karthikeyan going through the S's, well, you're going to struggle to get past him. As Senna, no struggle whatsoever. DRS assisted, manages to get past Romain Grosjean, who sadly for him is going backwards quicker than he's going forwards at the moment. Maldonado and Button now right on his tail. Look how Massa is starting to open up a gap on Perez and Schumacher. And just behind Maldonado, Ricciardo getting interested in the Toro Rosso, tries to dive down the inside of the right-hander. Out in front, 2.2 seconds, as you can see the gap between Vettel and Hamilton. Round the outside, through to turn 17 we go. Ricciardo and Maldonado. Full marks for effort, Ricciardo here, all over the gearbox of the Williams.
Button having a look at the inside of Grosjean into the final turn. Be better getting a run down the pit straight, and that's what he's doing. But look at the lap time Hamilton's just done.
And Lewis, this is excellent, fastest lap of the race so far.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, here comes Jenson Button and Romain Grosjean. Down the inside goes Button, makes the apex, makes the move, and Grosjean's lost another place there. So in the space of 1 lap, he's gone backwards by about 5 or 6 places, has Grosjean.
Yeah, he was 5th, wasn't he, fighting with Hulkenberg. He's now down in 13.
And this is what caused it all, turn 19.
Oh, on the downshift. On the downshift.
We've seen a lot of errors at turn 19, but not often as early into the corner as that.
Oh, he was lucky to get out of there, actually. He was facing the wrong way before he even arrived at the apex.
And this is the move that we saw. Jenson Button on Romain Grosjean into that first turn, which is a great spot if you're coming to Austin to see a race, to watch an awful lot of action.
Shows you how little grip there is out there for an F1 car to spin off with, you know, they're harvesting curves, and it's quite complex as to how the braking systems work, depends where you are on the lap and your curves usage, etc. But still, to see one fly off the road backwards just because he's braked and downshifted is quite unusual, unless it's in the rain, and of course that is probably about the sort of grip they're feeling out there right now.
Certainly, looking at Pastor Maldonado at the moment, there seems to be little or no grip whatsoever for that Williams. Started 9th Maldonado, very soon he's going to be down at about 15th place. While all this is happening, Lewis Hamilton is gaining ever so slightly on Sebastian Vettel, 2.1 seconds the gap right out in front. Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso holding 3rd and 4th. Alonso currently 8.8 seconds behind the race leader, Nico Hulkenberg, in a race of his own in 5th place at the moment, but Kimi Raikkonen catching him and might soon be within DRS range as well. As here goes Daniel Ricciardo into turn 1. Grosjean keeps leaving that door open, but is there a way of forcing his way back ahead as they make their way through turn 2? Looked like it was for me, as we now see Bruno Senna through that S's section. Having an eventful race is Romain Grosjean. Look at that, Michael Schumacher going wide, almost giving Jenson Button the chance to pop up into 11th place.
Schumacher slipped down 6 places since the start. I think he did outperform the car, and to be frank, in qualifying he hooked up some temperature and got the right temperature across both axles and put in a stonking lap, but unfortunately he's not got the race pace to go with it.
Into the hairpin we come then. Maldonado behind Grosjean. What about Maldonado's teammate, Bruno Senna? It's Michael Schumacher ahead of him, but not for long. DRS is working here, we can say that for sure.
That's beautifully. Hamilton's about to pop in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Some great side-by-side action. We're seeing a lot of skill out here today. Rosberg's still mired down there. Now Ricciardo's been off backwards somewhere. We're about to see it. 17 off track and continued, it actually says, which is Jean-Eric Byrne too. Byrne's been off.
Now interestingly, Lewis Hamilton has just taken half a second, there you are, out of Sebastian Vettel's lead on the previous lap. The gap down to 1.6 seconds as they come through now, turns 6 and up to 7.
And purple every sector, 0.6 faster than Vettel.
He is on a charge. Here's Lewis Hamilton, the man that was leading comfortably in Singapore until his gearbox went, and Sebastian Vettel took over the race lead and then went on to a monumental run that has given him this championship lead of 10 points going into this race. While all that's going on, Romain Grosjean has come into the pits, maybe for a bit of respite. He's had a very busy afternoon so far, and Jenson Button and Michael Schumacher down the main straight just a few moments ago. Button gaining all the time. Now those hard compound tyres are up to temperature. They seem to be a very good tyre to be on. Schumacher gives him just enough space, but only just enough space.
Schumacher sweep going on there. He's still got that in his armoury. There he goes. Jensen nearly into the next state there. He didn't lift. And a little love tap on the way through saying, "You old rascal, you, goodbye."
Good to see. Yep, Schumacher fighting with everything he could, and Jenson Button winning that particular duel on this occasion. And we go back on board now with Kimi Raikkonen, who has Nico Hülkenberg for company, just half a second behind him at the end of the last lap. Through turn 19, gains ever closer. Just, you can almost feel the tension in the driver's body as they go through turn 19, and the car is just not planted in the way that they would once. Ted, down to you.
Never mind the tension there. The tension down here at Red Bull is really palpable. I mean, he's gone from the gap from Vettel to Hamilton, has gone from 2.3, now down to 1.6, now down to 1.5. Christian Horner's foot isn't jiggling yet, but Lewis Hamilton has really got the bit between his teeth, so they're going to have to manage this very carefully. Obviously, they don't want Vettel to overstress the car because they do need him to finish. That's paramount. As for the other championship contender, Fernando Alonso, he does seem to be quicker than Mark Webber ahead of him now, consistently, a couple of tenths quicker per lap, but the gap is coming down slowly though. Webber done a good job of building it up though to about 3 seconds.
Yeah, and that will make Red Bull even more nervous. They've got Hamilton catching Vettel. He's half a second away now from the DRS zone. And Alonso finally turning faster laps than Webber too.
So many battles all over the place. If you want to focus on the Vettel-Hamilton battle, riding on board, you can. Sky Race Control, of course, while we watch Kimi Raikkonen and Nico Hülkenberg, DRS assisted. Raikkonen squeezes up to within just a couple of car lengths, but then much better exit out of turn 12 for Nico Hülkenberg, and his teammate Paul di Resta has Felipe Massa not only for company but now ahead of him. Massa up into 7th place. Started 11th on the grid and now making his way up into 7th. Di Resta himself, decent start for him, qualified down in 13th, now running 8th.
That Ferrari of Massa's has been quicker than his teammates, I reckon, certainly all through Saturday, and that new seal on the gearbox doing an amazing job for him. But up then, I mean, he obviously got himself a reasonable start, but that's a nice P7. Look at it. Why is coming that far back? DRS is working a bit too well at the end of this season. And Paul di Resta will be going like, what? Where did he come from? About 50 metres behind is the answer.
Right, it makes you wonder where Ferrari could have been in qualifying had they, like everyone else in Q3, used a brand new set of tyres rather than a scrub set that they'd used in P3. Former Ferrari driver Rubens Barrichello watching on, saw him last night, the Brazilian Churrascaria. Said it was great to see you back. He said, yeah, I'd like to come back for a little bit longer and get us a drive for next season. Sadly, I don't think he's on anyone's shopping list, even though there are a few seats still left to be filled for next year. As for the first time in a while, Sebastian Vettel has actually managed on lap 11 to extend his advantage, but Hamilton's coming back at him on this lap with a great first sector. He's about 2 tenths ahead now on this lap through the middle sector. Back we go to 5th and 6th, Hülkenberg and Raikkonen, who paid the price for being on an even numbered grid slot, and now he's gaining on Hülkenberg again. But that Force India, it's not bad, is it, in a straight line? This time, much better exit out of turn 12 for Raikkonen. Hülkenberg's got the inside line going into 13, and he's hanging on in there, is Kimi Raikkonen, giving it absolutely everything, but can't quite get close enough. Lock up from Hülkenberg as he breaks that little bit later. Now, can Raikkonen dive down the inside through 17? Not on this occasion.
Bill Vettel slightly faster than Hamilton, despite some pretty spectacular sectors there from Lewis Hamilton. Do not leave this motor race. You're seeing some world-class driving up front. A real head-to-head.
Kimi being held up by Hulkenberg, so Hulkenberg 5th, Kimi 6th. But you're really killing them with the lap time. You're catching them very, very quickly.
You can tell Felipe Massa that message, but you wouldn't want to tell Rosberg, sorry, Raikkonen, would you?
No, not
the obvious message.
Not at this moment in time. He's got Hulkenberg for company and he's finally gone past him. They nearly banged wheels. It was like rotting stags without the contact, and Raikkonen makes his way up past Hulkenberg and into 5th. What a tremendous opening 13 laps we've had here. Lewis Hamilton being told we're in the window now for our pit stop strategy. Please confirm that you've understood that. We can see once again how Raikkonen did it, forcing Hulkenberg to take that inside line.
Going to go on a long while yet. The belief that you know the car will stick, will hold on to the racetrack around the outside there. Tremendous move there. Jenson Button does the fastest first sector of anybody by some margin, actually. Now that's interesting. Maybe those hard compound tyres are coming to life.
Well, it's a very good point, and we've been told by some of the teams you can run these hard tyres for as long as you want, so maybe an early pit stop could be the way to go here. Maldonado and Schumacher. 13th place up for grabs for Maldonado, who has made the next turn ahead of the 7-time world champion, and he's starting to find a bit more pace as well. That Hulkenberg and Raikkonen move, by the way, carried out at about 155 miles an hour down that slope and through the right-hander. Just superb.
That's the thing that's impressed me most about Kimi this year, is he had 2 years away hitting trees in a rally car, but his racecraft has been superb from the word go, and he's the only man in this field that's completed every Grand Prix lap this season so far. Kobayashi pits.
So Kobayashi for Sauber coming in for the second pit stop of this race so far. Back on board and on the track. Now with Bruno Senna down in 10th place at the moment, with Jenson Button catching him from behind. And Ted, the strategy guys now starting to come into their own. What can they turn around from this situation?
Well, not so much so far, because we haven't entered the pit stop windows. I mean, the window's open for a big safety, big lock up there, David.
From Lewis Hamilton,
from the Red Bull.
Sorry, Sebastian Vettel. I was actually just looking at something else at the time. Apologies,
sorry,
Ted.
Apologies, I'll continue. Big lock-up, yeah. So Sebastian Vettel being pushed very hard there by Lewis Hamilton. But lap 20 to 35, we're expecting them in for their stop. So the window is open if there was a safety car right now. But the one to watch is really Jenson Button. He's really starting to get into his stride on those hard tyres. And he's going much longer than all of the people in front of him. You need 19 seconds to make the stop.
If necessary. Yellow G3, use overtake button.
Mark, you're talking to me during the DRS zone. I didn't even know I had it.
So obviously that's a recorded message, and it would have been played out to Lewis Hamilton earlier on in the lap, the DRS zone on the straight.
Yeah, and I think they're also giving him permission to use maximum revs as well. So the gap was 1.2. The DRS detection zone is quite a long way before T11. I think it's that white line across there, and we're looking at. And he's gone in deep as well. Vettel looking rattled.
Well, he obviously doesn't need to win this race, but with Fernando Alonso lurking around in 4th place and the threat of rain in Sao Paulo in a week's time, 25 precious points, very much what Red Bull are after here. But Lewis Hamilton has gained appreciably on this lap through the middle sector. Traditionally, this weekend, the final sector has been very much Sebastian Vettel's domain, but 0.2 of a second in the second sector, 0.3 of a second in the first sector. Hamilton has closed the gap so far in this particular lap.
And look at this, top speeds. Sebastian Vettel, 296 kilometers per hour. Lewis Hamilton, 313 kilometres per hour.
Here's the thing, Jean-Eric Vergne, for the second time this weekend, has that Toro Rosso parked in the gravel, and this is the reason why. Into turn 12 we go. Is there contact with Michael Schumacher? He's gone off and he's gone wide. And in trying to get back onto the track again, what's happened here? Nico Rosberg swoops around the outside of Jean-Eric Vergne, so he's been tag teamed by both Mercedes and now
down, I think,
pulls over. But the key here is, Martin, both times,
it says steering arm.
Both times we've seen cars go off this weekend and park their car, it's taken a long time to get them moved.
Wasn't it Jean-Eric Vergne as Massa then makes his move on Hulkenberg? Wasn't it Jean-Eric Vergne that had the steering failure in practice as well?
He was the first, and he's still there, still stopped. Jean-Eric Vergne in the infield, as it were. So the yellow flag's being waved, but how long before we potentially need a safety car whilst they bring the tractor in to move it?
There goes the DRS. Look at these straight line speed differences now. If Hamilton gets anywhere near the back of that Red Bull, he'll breeze past down the back straight. But now he's in the turbulent air, of course. All of the air that passes over those hundreds of little aero pieces is turbulent when it arrives on the front of that McLaren. And you can tell, you turn in and the front just slides across the road. The back doesn't stick as well. You can't brake quite as late. It's immensely frustrating, especially as you can't see the thing that's giving you all the pain.
You can feel it though, can't you?
You certainly can.
So Hamilton within that DRS zone, and that's exactly where Jean-Eric Vergne's car is, at turn 7. That's why we've got the yellow flag situation. So no overtaking around that particular sector.
Hamilton's got nothing to lose. He just wants to win his last 2 races with McLaren. Vettel's got everything to lose if they end up wheel to wheel.
And he's now a second ahead on the timing screens at the end of lap 16 is Sebastian Vettel.
Sei il più veloce dei primi 4, Hamilton in zona DRS per Vettel.
So Alonso down in 4th place, Hamilton within the DRS zone of Sebastian Vettel. And Alonso has been slowly but surely gaining on Mark Webber, and took quite a big chunk, as you can see on lap 16, out of Webber's advantage. Vergne's car has been cleared away, so no safety car on this particular stage of the race. Down to you, Ted.
Yeah, but with the Webber and Alonso battle, they both took pain having to slow down for the yellow flag, which is now cleared. Alonso...
3 clicks rearwards. Kers has failed.
Not again.
Another Kers failure, Ted, for Mark Webber.
And that is going to mess up the rest of his race, because as we saw a couple of races ago, it just completely destroys the brake balance. Okay, I'll go to Red Bull and find out if it's a recoverable failure. Doesn't seem like it tends to be when it's happened before, but that will really do for Mark Webber's chances. Expect him to be swallowed up by Alonso. I wondered why Webber had done the 46 rather than Alonso's 44, that's why. And there we go.
And he's pulled out. I was just about to say it's worth about 0.4 of a second a lap, Kers here, but for Mark Webber, a failure seems to be terminal. And Red Bull here to take potentially 2 World Championships this weekend. No longer have 2 cars on the track. Mark Webber is out of this race, and Fernando Alonso goes up into the podium places. Massive disappointment for the Australian driver and for his teammate Sebastian Vettel as well. Currently 20 points clear of Fernando Alonso, who's still hanging on in there, ready for the fight. In there.
They need 4 World Championship points. If they're, as Button now makes his way up into 10th place with that one. But they've lost a car. Alonso is coming back, straight back at him. That Williams is mighty fast in a straight line. We
would have had DRS, I assume, to help him.
He shouldn't have done, should he? Because he was into the corner first.
Well, the detection
zones before that corner, isn't it?
But the detection zone might carry on around that corner as well. That's the thing. It's where that detection zone.
It's on the line.
It's on the line. Okay.
Yeah. And then you get access on the way up.
Okay, that puts you in P5. We're currently P5. Keep going like this, mate. We'll get on the podium. Come on. Keep pushing.
No chance for Mark Webber to keep pushing. His run of 59 races without a mechanical failure is over. Last time he was out because of a mechanical failure when his brakes failed, 2009 in Singapore.
Lewis is having a very poor middle sector, lost 7/10 there. But, Fernando Alonso, you know, he's always so convinced this is all going to play out like this, isn't he? And here it is again.
It's proper self-belief. We all looked a bit puzzled when he was saying last night, no, I can still do this, I can still be the champion, but he's an experienced racing driver. This is 195th Grand Prix, so he's probably seen it all happen and more.
What makes Red Bull very nervous on the pit wall and everywhere is, of course, Vettel's car is the same as Webber's car.
Yeah.
I think there were some KERS differences last time out, but I understand they're identical, so if one car can fail, they know all too well that so can the other.
And we've had the water leak already this weekend for him as well.
Felipe Massa now coming to life.
Well, and Kimi Raikkonen, and the man that seems to be losing in this particular stage of the race is Lewis Hamilton, who's had a very poor last lap, managed to claw a couple of tenths back on Sebastian Vettel in the first sector of this lap. And you wonder what's happened to that McLaren as well. Is that a side of his tyres just losing their life a little bit?
I wonder what's happening here, Crofty. They really pushed super hard, didn't they? It was head-to-head. I wonder if they've just overcooked the tyres a little bit. They need to just let them come back because they're definitely not the two fastest cars on the track at the moment in that respect. But Alonso 43.8, 43.1 for Raikkonen, 42.9 for Massa. So they might just have overheated those tyres.
And Romain Grosjean in the 142s at the moment on the hard compound tyre after his pit stop down the U10.
Yeah, where they're looking at Lewis Hamilton's tyre temperatures and wear quite carefully. They're saying there's nothing wrong with the car at the moment, but we've started seeing some left rear graining on some other cars. So let's keep, the McLaren will be keeping in touch with that. If you compare it to Romain Grosjean, who stopped on lap 10, and by the way, who has to do 46 laps.
Fastest lap of the race, fastest lap of the race. You and Kimi are the quickest cars. You're absolutely flying. Come on, this is brilliant.
But Grosjean's done the fastest lap of the race on a 42.4 on the hard tyre, so that's a good option to go on to at the moment. McLaren will be thinking about making a stop for Lewis.
Thanks ever so much, Ted. Fernando Alonso pushing very hard indeed. And he just had this little moment at turn 19. Running wide, but not a huge penalty in doing so.
Well, because they've all had so much practice out there, haven't they? They know they can just floor the throttle again and come back on. They've all been out there so many times in practice.
So the situation after Lewis Hamilton gaining on Sebastian Vettel is now that Vettel's 3.2 seconds ahead. Alonso further 11.5 seconds down the road. Kimi Raikkonen gaining on Alonso, 6.5 seconds back. Felipe Massa gaining on Kimi Raikkonen, around about 5 seconds back on the winner in Abu Dhabi. Paul di Resta running in 6th place and running a very strong race for Force India at the moment. Behind him, Sergio Perez, who's made gains from the start here, started 15th, now running in 7th. Bruno Senna is 8th and Button 9th, making gains as well. He started on the harder compound tyre, and Daniel Ricciardo completing the points positions for Toro Rosso. There's a lot of cars within a second of each other, and are we going to see Lewis Hamilton, I think, coming into the pits?
Ricciardo was the first man, of course, to drop out in qualifying yesterday, along with the 6 newer cars, and it is Lewis Hamilton, hard tyres going on.
Siamo al target lap, stiamo pensando di fermarci ora, ti confermo.
They're telling Fernando Alonso what his target lap is for when he needs to come in for his pit stop, and that might be now for Fernando Alonso. It is, as Lewis Hamilton exits the pit lane. Fernando Alonso makes his first and could be only stop. Cracking stop from the McLaren team, 2.4
right
seconds.
Rear, difficult.
Yeah, that's not going to be 2.4 seconds, is it, at all? Maybe 4, near 5 seconds stationary for Fernando Alonso. Down to you, Ted.
Oh, and that's so unlike Ferrari having a problem in the pit stop. Right rear, as you say, the problem was getting the tyre off. It looked like the gunman just couldn't get purchase. Got it on all right, but that's a valuable time gone there for Alonso.
Bruno Senna pits as well. Sebastian Vettel still out there. Now, do they have to react straight away?
Yeah, they've got to react, because it looks like, you know, if you watch Grosjean and co on these tyres, they're flying now. Button's been on them since the start. He's up into 8th, having lost so many places. I think it was 16th at one point. So Vettel, surely Red Bull will respond immediately.
Fascinating watching Fernando Alonso on board as he came out there, though, really struggling with grip on the opening stages of his lap. And that was the problem. How much will that cost Fernando Alonso? Not in terms of him gaining on Lewis Hamilton, but the fact that Raikkonen and Massa behind him were significantly quicker before he made the pit stop. And there's Jenson Button and Sergio Perez having a decent little scrap for 7th and 8th. Button trying to stay in the slipstream, moves out. They're going to be teammates next season. Is this the first time that Jenson Button can say, hey mate, you've still got some work to do to get better than me? He does make it up into 7th place as Sebastian Vettel now pits from the lead. Excellent
faster,
pit stop. Yeah. Did he stop?
Incredible. It was just one fluid movement.
Around about 30 yards from our commentary box. It was an absolute blur, but
slower than McLaren.
Not as fast. 0.3 of a second slower. So Vettel comes back out then into the race, and they found him a nice clear bit of track. As we watch Bruno Senna and Sergio Perez, who now being passed by Jenson Button, has got problems with Senna behind him.
Perez,
that was before the move. There's Button flying past.
So that's the second time Senna's been passed into there in this race. Perez passed him on the first lap down in there. Let's close that door. It's getting drafty. And he lost another place then, did Senna?
Yeah, the Toro Rosso coming through. Daniel Ricciardo. Senna, who you can understand maybe struggling a bit, Martin, because he's just been in at the same time as Lewis Hamilton did for a pit stop. And it might be 2 or 3 laps before these tyres get up to the right temperature. So you could see those that have just made their stop struggling for grip for the next few moments at least.
So Raikkonen runs second, and that's interesting. He'll be in the lead now, won't he, now that Vettel's made his pits? But he's only 2.2 seconds ahead of Hamilton. So Vettel's going to feed right back into the middle of that as well. So Raikkonen's got himself, having not stopped, right in the battle. And is that, I'm looking at the computer screen there, what's happening on the real screen, Crofty?
I think that is Sebastian Vettel ahead of Kimi Raikkonen out on the track. Now here's Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso. See Alonso struggling for grip there. Jenson Button's been on these tyres for the past 21 3/4 laps. And we were talking to the teams this morning, and there was this big fear, wasn't it, when you made your pit stop, it's going to take you quite a long while to get the tyres working.
Okay, Jenson Alonso on new tyres could be struggling to warm them up. There's a good gap in front of him. That's the free air.
So it's yours for the taking, Jenson Button, if you can get past Alonso here. And the battle for 5th and 6th place, but Button obviously hasn't stopped yet. Look, Martin, how he's gaining, going up to the hill, just runs out of straight and can't dive down the inside on this occasion.
Yeah, that extra pit stop time really put Alonso back in the pack a bit, didn't it? By 3 to 4 seconds, and hurt him quite a lot. Now he's got a fight on his hands with Jenson Button, who's really in tune with these tyres and this racetrack. As Perez exits the pit as well. So yeah, Vettel's a second ahead of Raikkonen.
You just need to keep running and running. The pace is absolutely excellent. The pace is fine. You need to keep running like this. Fernando's struggling on the hard tyre. In fact, most people, when they put the hard tyre, they're not immediately quick.
And that's the story. They're eventually quick, but not immediately quick. Yeah. Remember, Jenson was nowhere at the beginning of the race.
So he's had a lap and a half, Fernando Alonso, on these tyres. Is that enough to get them into the working range? Can Jenson Button get him? The answer is yes, he can, quite easily indeed. And that for Fernando Alonso is exactly what he didn't want to happen. No free air in front of him now. Jenson Button has passed him. Eventually Button's got a pit and Alonso will pass him once more. But now he's got to cope with running behind that McLaren for a few laps.
He'll cope with staying ahead of Ricciardo as well.
And he wasn't using his curves, it didn't seem to me, Fernando Alonso, to defend that too hard.
Well, I think it's impressive. He didn't bother diving all over the racetrack. He just knew it was a done deal. Why waste time and risk any damage? He's passed me.
Meanwhile, Kimi Räikkönen and Lewis Hamilton, this for second and third. Räikkönen hasn't made his stop yet. Hamilton has. Down to you, Ted.
I'm just wondering, David, how much that was Fernando Alonso allowing Jenson Button pass. They would have heard from that radio message that Button is pretty much in a different race, strategically speaking, than Fernando Alonso, and it might have just caused him a little bit of trouble if he'd got into fighting Button. So, well, we'll find out after the race if Alonso let him through there, but decent pass anyway by Jenson Button. Just quickly, strategically speaking, Räikkönen, he's going to be, when he pits, he's going to be in a real cat and mouse fight with Alonso. I think he could pass Alonso in the stops here, Räikkönen.
Well, if he keeps banging these laps in, he could, but he needs to stay ahead of Lewis Hamilton, and that's not going to happen. Hamilton makes his move down into turn 12.
And Hamilton's not very far behind Vettel, is he? That's a key move to get past Räikkönen, who's out of position really due to the pit stop. But that's really interesting that Lewis is still right in there, despite having to spend all that time getting past Räikkönen. Massa's not too far, but Massa's flying in this race.
Hasn't made his pit stop yet, as we watch once again Lewis Hamilton reclaiming second place in this race. And those tyres he's been on for a lap longer than Sebastian Vettel. So this is now the next lap. He needs to take advantage of Vettel's struggles to get the temperature up. Räikkönen now pits from third.
So Räikkönen was 20 seconds ahead of Alonso when they last passed the pits. So it's about 19 seconds for a decent stop, and that doesn't look like a decent stop. And that might just have allowed Alonso off the hook.
Yep, 6.4 second stop for Kimi Räikkönen. Here comes Fernando Alonso. It's going to be tight going into that first turn, and off the hook by a fraction. Fernando Alonso down the hill and clear, and now Ricciardo all over the gearbox of Räikkönen.
Sebastian Hamilton is back in P2. Hamilton back in P2.
Yep, and Räikkönen trying to hold Ricciardo and not lose 2 places in the space of a quarter of a lap. But look at this, Jenson Button now setting the new fastest lap of this race. And Felipe Massa might just be the man to leapfrog Fernando Alonso in these pit stops, the rate he's going.
And they were...
That's the wheel gun. What was the hold up there?
No, they seem to be waiting for each other there, and it's cost him the chance to be in front of Fernando Alonso.
And on the dirty side into turn 1, absolutely no grip. He wants to make a defence as well. And I said that Ricciardo was all over his gearbox, and Ricciardo with the Toro Rosso that hasn't made a stop yet is now ahead of Kimi Räikkönen on the track. Down to you, Ted.
Yeah, David, I heard Kimi Räikkönen spluttering. It sounded like a sort of broken exhaust when he came into the pits. It was really rough sounding, so we thought it was a bad pit stop. It looked like they were...
Great job, Lewis. 2 tenths faster than Vettel last lap. We get him.
We thought a mistake in the pits had cost him, because without that, he would have easily, if it was a normal time stop, he would have easily passed Fernando Alonso. So I'm on my way down to Lotus to find out exactly what the problem is.
Thank you very much. Vettel by 2 seconds from Lewis Hamilton. Felipe Massa currently in third, hasn't made his pit stop, and about 5.3 seconds behind Hamilton. Jenson Button hasn't stopped yet, running in fourth. Alonso runs fifth from Ricciardo, Räikkönen, Rosberg, Grosjean and Hülkenberg completing the points scoring positions on lap 26 out of 56 here at what has been a hugely absorbing and thoroughly entertaining US Grand Prix so far. I hope the second half was good.
Better to come yet, I think. A fight between the helicopters down the back straight there. But Hamilton, again, 3 tenths faster in the first sector on this lap alone.
This is how it stands in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Alonso is still in with a shout, and mainly because of Mark Webber's KERS problem. We'll hear from him in a moment.
Yes, he has not stopped yet. He has not stopped yet, but Massa will stop soon. He may be in front of us when he stops.
Räikkönen wants to be kept informed on this occasion of what is going on. Let's hear from Mark Webber now, talking to Natalie Pinkham. Thank you.
Mark, what was the problem today?
Alternator, ultimately in the end, so we lost
the batteries on the car. We lost KERS, we lost gearbox sync, and you know, the laps before I retired, I was in trouble. We knew we were probably, you know, it was a long way home from there.
Massively disappointing for you, but given that it is an alternator issue, it must be a concern also for Vettel's side of the garage.
Yeah, I think so. I think, yeah, disappointing to lose a very good result here today for myself and for the team, and for sure there's more nerves for our reliability in general.
Thank you.
Now, we'll talk alternators in a moment, but here's Felipe Massa just struggling to come out of the pits, and he hasn't managed to get ahead of his teammate Fernando Alonso during the pit stop, so Alonso pops himself back up into that 4th place where he needs to be at the moment, given that Sebastian Vettel is leading this race.
What Massa can do is defend Alonso from Ricciardo and Raikkonen, so now he's very much in play after his 5-place drop on the grid. His pace has been good too.
Jenson Button round both HRTs in the space of 1 corner. Fernando Alonso has got to make that move himself, but at least it's happening now at the end of this S's section, so he's not going to get held up as much as he would do at the start of the S's, where you could lose 2 seconds just following the 2 HRTs where you haven't got a chance to get past. Now, alternators, Martin Brundle, cost Sebastian Vettel, did it in Monza. They've been running the old spec.
Valencia.
In Valencia, of course, as well. They've been running the old spec, but eventually they've had to go on to the new one, and I wonder if that's going to cost, as Massa and Ricciardo swapping places there, and Raikkonen right on the back of it.
This is the warm-up phase, of course, for Massa. He's struggling, so Ricciardo's been absolutely flying. He started 18th, he was out in Q1 yesterday. He's now up into P6. Is Daniel Ricciardo, of course, hasn't stopped yet, nor has Button in P4. Hamilton now back within 1.5 seconds of Vettel as well, having just done the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. It's kicking off all over the place.
Yeah, and you're going to be worried, aren't you, if you're on that Red Bull pit wall about alternators. Yes. It has been an Achilles heel at times this season. Raikkonen right on the rear wing of Felipe Massa, struggling for traction coming out of that final turn. Massa in 6th, Ricciardo up to 5th, Raikkonen, how long is he going to stay 7th? Not for much longer as he squeezes past Massa, tries to make the move back on exit of turn 1, Felipe Massa, but not enough grip coming out of that corner. And I think these two are going to be locking horns again before we reach the checkered flag. We're only at half race distance here in Austin this afternoon.
There's been a bit of radio chat about possibly having to go on to a 2-stopper. They're definitely losing performance. I mean, we were told, weren't we, this morning, basically both the tyres will do the entire Grand Prix. But there was clearly some time there where Vettel and Hamilton had peaked and were beginning to go quite a bit slower.
The initial target lap for the 1-stoppers was round about lap 24. They could make it to that, then they'd be clearly in a 1-stop range. Well, Raikkonen did make it to lap 24. Massa made it to lap 26, but Vettel 21, Hamilton 20th lap. Fernando Alonso, lap 20 as well. Not quite the target that they would have been looking for.
Look at that, Hamilton just lost 9/10 of a second to out of the lead there. Where are they? Are they in traffic? I think they could well be in some traffic.
Well, you either get stuck in the S's or you get stuck through turns 12 down to 17 and 18. And there's really, you just got to take the penalty, haven't you, as we watch once again Raikkonen and Massa. Kimi Raikkonen in 6th place at the moment, but Ted, you didn't hear that everything was okay with his exhaust when he came into the pits.
No, but the team insists that everything is okay with the car. They believe the problem in the pit stop was that Kimi, for some reason, was struggling with the clutch, and he was actually spinning up his wheels while the car was still up on the rear jacks, and so there was a little confusion while they didn't know what to do, whether to drop him or get him to stop. But they're investigating it now. That's what cost them 3 or 4 seconds in the pit stop, but they insist the car is okay now, and Kimi's on his way.
And Grosjean on his way once again, up above Nico Rosberg. Rosberg's tyres must be crying out a little bit. He hasn't managed to stop yet, Grosjean has. And now has 8th place for his troubles, and Narain Carter-Cayan just ahead of him. Only 2 drivers out in this race. Jean-Eric Vergne, who in practice had a suspension problem that forced him out after he hit a curb. Didn't see him hit a curb today, but he had to pull out of the race nonetheless. And Mark Webber with an alternator problem again for Red Bull. who lead this race, with Sebastian Vettel 2.5 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. And here's Massa and Raikkonen getting very close together. As Grosjean laps De La Rosa, and Hulkenberg has Bruno Senna for company. Hulkenberg, who was racing as high as the top 5, now down in 10th place at the moment.
So now that Massa's got some tyre temperatures, interesting, he can quite easily come back at Raikkonen. And then Ricciardo's only a second or so up the road, having not stopped. So still Button and Ricciardo, 3rd and 5th, haven't stopped.
Yeah, and also Nico Rosberg, the 3 that haven't stopped in this race so far. Jenson Button's pace, considering that he hasn't stopped, still not bad, is it? Only a couple of tenths off his teammate.
Turned out if he'd had a better first lap, Jenson would have been right in the thick of it by now.
Just had to take the pain at the start, really, with faster starting cars around him.
It must be brilliant to drive a Formula 1 car through here. The corners just keep coming at you. You just turn in, and it does progressively slow down towards the end, but you can really attack and make the difference through there, I'd imagine.
And great scenes from these helicopters. And
tyre still good, pace very strong, still gapping the cars behind. Okay, Jenson, Massa stuck in traffic. We're pulling away from Massa.
So Button racing Massa as far as he's concerned at the moment. Past the RV park they go, down the straight once more.
Jenson always shows a good awareness of what's going on in the race around him. Always has done. But he was 2.3 seconds quicker than Massa, who's held up behind Raikkonen in the traffic at the moment. So that's the good news there for Jenson. Now Alonso's doing a personal best, 1st and 2nd sector. He's got his tyres where he needs them.
I think Pirelli, we'll hear the radio first.
And Lewis, tyres that came off the car are good. We can afford to push on this set.
So what if there's a bit of fuel management going on in there as well, in that phase when they slow down a little bit, because they often, well, almost always start the race with not quite enough fuel. They don't want to carry any extra mass. And there might, if there's no safety car, and if the pace is pretty much hot at the front, then they've got to save fuel at some point. He's now being told, right, take all the life out of your tyres. We've seen the set that came off, we've measured it, and there's more life in them than you think.
Yep, Ricciardo pits there, so only 2 haven't stopped now. For every 10 kilos of fuel extra that you don't need in the car, you're going to be penalised about 0.4 of a second per lap. So that's why they do it as minimal as possible.
Yeah, it's pretty much, most circuits are the same length, and it's pretty much 1/10 of a second per lap it costs you for a lap's worth of fuel.
Haven't seen him on our screens for a while, but Paul di Resta has just pitted again for the 2nd time in this race in a Force India that was running up in the points, but now down in about 14th position. Another back marker ahead of Sebastian Vettel, which will be Timo Glock in the Marussia. And Petrov and Kovalainen both now ahead of the 2 Marussias after being out qualified, but still not anywhere near that 12th place. That will get the team 10th in the Constructors' title back again. Trying to find out how much that would be worth to a team like Marussia as Hamilton gets the new fastest lap, and if they could get 10th, might be worth about $19 million to them.
And Vettel's going to catch the traffic in the middle of the snake.
That's not where you want to be catching a slower moving car, is it?
No. Costs you a little bit extra through there. The turbulent air, and then basically you're having to take wider lines in, and look how much Hamilton's gained on him.
Well, this has cost him. Look, he's still behind Timo Glock as they make their way down towards turn 11 now. Finally, he's free from him. Now, Lewis Hamilton should be able to get the Marussia now down the straight. He won't have lost any time whatsoever in that little exchange. How much has Sebastian Vettel lost, though?
Vettel can use the DRS because he...
Sono le hard, Fer, sono le hard, per questo tira così forte.
Ah, so Hamilton not being able to get Glock. Just thought a good exit out of that hairpin, he'd have been able to do it.
I agree with you. I thought he breezed past him. What's Glock doing with the blue flags? He goes and parks it on the apex there. So, well, it was about even Stevens, wasn't it, there? For the 2 leaders.
Being arbiter and judge and jury, Timo Glock. Don't want to hold one person up, want to make it nice and fair. Either way, Hamilton just his progress derailed a bit, and Sebastian Vettel with that DRS use was 2.1 seconds ahead at the end of the last lap, and that's now 1.6 seconds. So he lost half a second in that lap, but it could have been far worse.
What Alonso was asking there on the radio is, what tyres is Button on? I can't believe his pace on old tyres. He's a little bit surprised to see a McLaren that started 12th on the grid up ahead of him on old tyres. But JB, he's the man you'd want to drive your fleet cars, isn't he? He'd definitely use less tyres.
And I mentioned Paul di Resta having to stop for a second time. Oh, we've got to 10 minutes.
Great lap. You gained half a second on Vettel. There is more traffic ahead.
And he's gained half a second on this lap so far as well. Down to you, Ted.
Yes, I've just come into the Force India garage and seen the tyres that di Resta came off his car, and they had two very large flat spots on, and we believe he spun at turn 19, and we think he did another lap, and then I can tell you he certainly came on the radio and said that the car wasn't really drivable and that he should come in and change tyres, and that's put him well down the field. Shame though, he was having quite a decent race before that.
That is one grandstand seat I wouldn't want. I bet it's a great view, but I don't like heights. Despite flying helicopters, I don't like heights.
How does that work then?
I don't know.
Just going to ask you actually, you fly helicopters, how much lower would you like to go than our helicopter pilots this weekend?
It looks fun actually, doesn't it? Yeah. It looks like the avoid curve to me, where they shouldn't be at any times, but they've got a bit of forward speed, so they're all right. I've realised there's not two helicopters up there actually. One's that massively high tower. It's been impressing me all week how close those helicopters have been flying. Idiot.
Now this is impressive stuff at the moment. Lewis Hamilton on the charge. Gap was 1.6 seconds, now 1.2 seconds. 2 laps, 2 back markers, and Lewis Hamilton has got the gap almost to within DRS range once again. And through the first sector, he has been quicker than Sebastian Vettel on that last couple of laps, aided, it has to be said, by back markers. Doesn't seem like there's anyone to hold Sebastian Vettel up on this lap.
4/10 faster than Vettel last lap. Almost DRS. You almost got DRS.
And then he caught him massively through 6, 7 and 8, 9 over the top here. And wow, Hamilton's just got the car underneath him.
And he's found a great flow through there as well.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Really aggressive line. Now, is he within DRS range?
Oh, for sure.
We'll see. Vettel on the curves. DRS for Lewis Hamilton. Yes. You can see it going green on the graphic. So he's accelerating. And a difference in speed by the end of the straight, what, 15 kilometres an hour, was that?
Wow, look at the way he closed up on the brakes as well, for good measure. He had extra, probably 10 miles an hour more speed and could still brake later.
He's trying once again, isn't he, to be the championship party pooper as far as Red Bull and Sebastian Vettel are concerned.
That's happened often enough to Lewis, hasn't it?
Certainly has. Maybe we are going to go all the way down to a finale decider in Sao Paulo in a week's time.
I can't believe Vettel will do anything other than yield if it comes to close combat. He cannot afford to trip over.
But he's got to live to fight another day, hasn't he?
He has, hasn't he? But he can't afford to give away 7 points either.
See, we're looking at it from the rational perspective of the Sky commentary box here, Martin. When the visor's down, how rational and objective would you have been?
He knows Lewis has got nothing to lose there. Well, he's not going to wipe his wheels off unnecessarily either, but, they both know the deal. And it plays into Lewis's hands massively, in my view, psychologically.
Even though plenty of dirty, turbulent air filling Lewis Hamilton's visor and affecting the performance of his car. Brilliant lines through the S's. Gaining now within the DRS detection zone. And just a little bit unsteady coming out of turn 11. But now using KERS, using DRS to increase his speed once again. How much closer can he get to the Red Bull? The battle for the lead on lap 35 of this US Grand Prix, and Hamilton is gaining, and he is gaining, and he's just running out of straight. And he's within about 3 car lengths by the time they go through turn 12. You can ride on board with Lewis Hamilton and the backward-facing camera from the rear wing of Sebastian Vettel if you want to go to Sky Race Control and press your red button now.
Can we do that?
We could do anything.
I'd like to do that. That'd be brilliant. I've got a feeling Hamilton's on the form of his life, actually. He just looks so easy behind the wheel of that car. He looks comfortable. His normal flamboyant gear change going on as well. And he just looks like he's on top of his game.
Is it fair to say, he's battling for the lead here, but he should still be in this championship race if it wasn't for the mechanical failures that he's had, the victories that have been taken away from him.
Yeah, he's tripped over a few people as well, hasn't he? But it has reliability took the wind out of his sails. In Singapore, it looked like he was the main challenger to Alonso, didn't it? Until that gearbox failure. This presumably is for Mr. Button.
The last man to make a pit stop is Jenson Button, who was running in third place.
Now he's got a brand spanking new set of the medium compounds.
So he's out of sync with everybody else. In the same way that...
Out of sync with that lot going into turn one as well.
Yeah, he's now got the climb up to the hill. I would dare say he's going to come out at, just ahead of Romain Grosjean. He does come out just ahead of Grosjean, but Grosjean's going to get better traction, as you can see, out of turn one. So Button's got a few places to make up there. Slots back into 7th place in this race. Ted.
Yeah, but behind Felipe Massa, which is disappointing for McLaren. Maybe they left that a lap or two too late. Just quickly on Lewis Hamilton, McLaren have given him a little more engine power boost and KERS setting as well to help him try and overtake Vettel. But a thought on Vettel, if he's nursing his alternator, it's very difficult because the problem with this alternator is just an internal part that effectively makes the alternator overheat and then machine itself to pieces. And that can't really be eased by just backing off, but that appears to be what's happening.
20 laps to go, and there is our race leader, Sebastian Vettel, and the man who is gaining and catching and trying to take that lead off him, Lewis Hamilton.
You know, Crofty, how often the best races are those sort of wet, dry, damp, sort of changeable races when there's not enough grip. Bernie had the idea of putting sprinklers on some cars, but we're part way towards that here. They've not got enough grip, and it's making the racing better, isn't it? Drivers can't come out of the pits and just light up and go. They've got to build it up again.
Lewis suggests save some KERS for a lap so you can use all of it to attack on the next one.
Just have a little think and try and lull Sebastian Vettel into a false sense of security and catch him unawares just a little bit. But you're dead right. So is the solution then to totally re-tarmac a track and have it brand spanking new just before every Grand Prix? Bring the wrong tyres?
Yeah, bring the wrong tyres is the answer. Like Pirelli with, Pirelli gave us those tyres that were falling away quickly earlier on in the year. How often now do you see bits of rubber laying all over the side just off the racing line like we used to do? They've definitely toughened them up. But the problem Lewis has got is he's already bouncing off the limiter in 7th gear. What'll help him, though, is the Red Bull can barely get out of its own way in a straight line.
It has been consistently slow in a straight line in the last few races. Corners mightily fast, of course. And he's, with that use of KERS, Lewis not using his KERS so much, Vettel's increasing his lead.
And all of these cars have stopped, but we are much faster than all of them, much faster.
Yeah, he's done a 27.495 first sector, so they've lit up straight away. The medium tyres on Button's car. He's got a good chance then. Jensen's got a good chance of 4th place here.
And at McLaren, keeping their fingers crossed for Lewis Hamilton. At Ferrari, I would imagine they're keeping everything crossed for Lewis Hamilton as well, because it would mean an awful lot to Fernando Alonso if Hamilton could take this race lead.
Hamilton back in the DRS zone again as they cross the line. Of course, it's measured right at the far end of the circuit. He's got so much more speed through that section. Slightly different line as well.
Found a great rhythm out there this afternoon. Packed grandstands all over this 900-acre site. American fans have flocked to Austin, to the Circuit of the Americas. We had 65,000 on practice day. We had 80,000 plus yesterday in the promising 6-figure attendance here this afternoon for the first ever Formula One Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas, where Mario Andretti says Formula One has found its home in the States and it's here to stay. And Lewis Hamilton, the man who was the winner of the last US Grand Prix at Indianapolis in 2007, is chasing the man who made his debut in Formula One at Indy in that race as well. Took to the grass, didn't he, at the first corner, went on to score his first point in Formula One by the end of the race and finishing 8th. And now 99 races later, is on the verge of a world championship that's not going to be decided here this afternoon, not with Fernando Alonso in third place, but he's going to go a long way to sealing his third championship in a row. Riding on board now with Jenson Button as Romain Grosjean just ahead of him, and he's gaining all the time on Grosjean in the Lotus. Tries to pull one way and then the other, and realises he's just a touch too far back on this lap, but look how he's gained on Grosjean since he got overtaken and passed when he came out of the pits.
Is he going to try and slide up the inside? That's a bold move on Grosjean, but he makes it stick. Nice.
Grosjean, aware of what was coming behind him on that occasion, kept out of the way. Matt LeBlanc with some new friends, enjoying himself down at Lotus, but maybe his mates at Lotus won't enjoy seeing a replay of that too often.
Jenson can get his elbows out when he needs to. That was good stuff. There we go. He telegraphed it early. Grosjean didn't see it coming. Job done.
And now Button 2.7 seconds behind Felipe Massa.
Yeah, I think Button's going to finish fourth. He'll struggle to catch Alonso.
And Hamilton's on the DRS again, just running out of straight again. Sorry, Martin. Back to the battle for the lead.
Yeah, I think there's too much of a gap to Raikkonen and to Alonso for Jenson to get on the podium, but who knows as they move into the closing stages. But you have to say, Vettel's doing a great job out front, isn't he, as well? I mean, he's not being... He got a little bit untidy, didn't he, early on when Hamilton first started coming at him. But since then, he's just kept his head calm.
He has, of course, got back markers that could play a part in this race. Okay at the moment, but it's Kobayashi and Schumacher and Rosberg, the next cars that Sebastian Vettel will find ahead of him. And it's where they are in relation to Sebastian Vettel when they approach the S's section in the first sector. That's where you get held up the most. Down to you, Ted.
Just a bit of information about Mercedes, and do stop me if Hamilton makes a move, but they're in trouble with their tyres. Michael Schumacher's just been told that he's going to have to make another stop, and Nico Rosberg's been told on the radio, if you're listening on the pit lane channel, that when he came in after his first stop, the right rear, one of the rear tyres, was worn down to beyond what they consider, or rather to what they consider acceptable. So it looks like, as Massa makes a move, that both Mercedes are going to have to make it a two-stop race.
Well, we've just seen the view from Felipe Massa's Ferrari, now the view from Kimi Raikkonen's Lotus. Massa coming out of nowhere.
You stepped back there when you saw Massa come into the frame.
Even though I knew what was going to happen.
We also knew how it was going to end, and it ends with Felipe Massa having one of his best drives of the year, now up into fourth place. Button's only a second behind him as well, and Hamilton way less than a second behind Sebastian Vettel.
Now he's got as close as I think we've seen him so far in this race, and he's got the fans, a lot of whom have got the McLaren caps, rising to their feet down at turn 12, but he's now got to follow that Red Bull for another lap before he gets another go at it. And it's how close can he follow Sebastian Vettel to give him a better chance of a move down the inside. And Ted mentioned problems for Mercedes and their tyres, and another pit stop for Michael Schumacher, his second of the race. Won his last 4 US Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher, but he's not going to be winning from way down the field, sadly for him today. Down the main straight we come with Vettel and Hamilton, 0.6 of a second the lead. Schumacher keeping behind and out of the way as the two leaders pass through.
Vettel almost parked it then on the apex of turn 1, got good traction through the exit though. And Hamilton must be sitting there thinking, no, I'm much quicker than him, but somehow he's staying out front. I've noticed a lot lately, these last few races, Lewis has found a technique with his car setup and his driving stuff. He turns in very early. I remember picking up on that on some track guides we've done, using his quali laps, and he definitely is making this car and these tyres work well by just getting the nose right into the corner.
Is that kind of being more aggressive as well to generate more heat early on? Now
he's extending the braking phase by doing that.
Now, is he close enough this time? Over that little crest they go, onwards towards turn 12, gaining, used up all his curves. Is he too far back? He's going to have a little go. No, not quite. But that is the closest he's got to Sebastian Vettel. So is that the dress rehearsal? And do we get the main performance on lap 42? It's building, isn't it? Something's going to happen in the next few moments as that Paul di Resta being lapped and keeping out of the way it is. Great example there of how often when you're being lapped you can lose so much time in your race, almost slowing to a stop, di Resta.
I used to do that when I first got into F1, and I'd have to drive to the Tyrrell factory and go through each lap with Ken Tyrrell and explain to him why I let Alain Prost through on any lap, or Ayrton Senna or whatever, but it's a different story today. You have to let them through. Look at that, Vettel then, a new fastest lap of the race. He's not giving up. Yeah, he's finding some time somewhere, isn't he, Sebastian? But it's actually difficult to see where specifically.
Just in that final sector, he picked up a little bit of time, couple of tenths on Lewis Hamilton, not enough to take him out of the DRS zone. It's reminiscent, isn't it, to the closing stages in was it Barcelona last year, where Sebastian Vettel held off Lewis Hamilton and was charging through. As Narain Carter-Cayenne gets lapped again and keeps out of the way.
Look at this, Alonso's on the leader's pace now. He does that so often in the race.
And Felipe Massa's just set the fastest lap of the race, as you can see. And look, Lewis Hamilton is a little bit closer now as they go into the DRS zone. As I said, we had the dress rehearsal on the last lap. Is this going to be the main performance? And he's getting a great tow, and he's very, very late, but he pulls out and pulls past. And Lewis Hamilton moves into the lead of this US Grand Prix. He has been closing and closing and closing ever since the round of pit stops, and now Hamilton has that number one, has the race lead, and gives that man there reason to get to his feet. And he's found a few to join him as well. Hamilton leads from Vettel, from Alonso.
Yeah, he was even closer than before. Vettel saw it coming, moved over to try and make him go the long way round. He said, I'll take that anyway. That was oh so close to contact, but job done. DRS assisted, of course. And they've all got the same tools, but that also is about the McLaren being faster in a straight line. Vettel made it as difficult as he reasonably could, but Hamilton was having none of it.
And he was inches away, Sebastian Vettel, from Lewis Hamilton's front wing end plate, making contact with his rear tyre.
Yeah.
And that could have been absolutely disastrous for him, as Kimi Raikkonen now has Jenson Button for company. We've just seen one McLaren get past a Renault-powered car. What about the other? As the Lotus for company. Jenson Button down in 6th.
Unbelievable how silly the Formula 1 is these days, with the stupid overtakes.
Understood. We saw that. Just focus on the job on hand, mate. Focus on the job on hand.
Vettel thinks that Lewis did get too close, ridiculously close, silly overtakes.
Was he talking about DRS?
He was either talking about the DRS and objecting to that, or the fact that Lewis Hamilton got very, very close to his rear tyre.
He was when he pulled across the road. Yeah.
Either way.
We'll hear it again, but I thought he was talking about silly overtakes and not liking that. But
well, what he doesn't like is that gap. 20 points it was in the Drivers' Championship, now down to 13 points. Still he has the advantage, but it's a lot closer than it would have been. Kimi Raikkonen down in 3rd place, out of it of course despite that win in Abu Dhabi. And Raikkonen having to focus now on Jenson Button, gaining on him.
And this is helping Massa quite a lot, because he's now pulled out 5.6 seconds over Raikkonen, and it's hurting Button not being able to get past Raikkonen. Grosjean's just behind him in the DRS zone as well. Hamilton in clear air does a new fastest lap of the Grand Prix.
Here comes Jenson Button. Kimi Raikkonen is ahead of him and stays ahead of him. Yeah. Button had used up all his KERS and had nothing left to fight it with, and approaching the limits of that car's speed. As Hamilton, as you mentioned, now sets the fastest lap, that 1:40.2.
Yeah, you're limited to 18,000 RPM, because that's to save a huge amount of money. We used to rev to 20,000, of course, which is incredible revs. If you look at the rev counter on your road car, you'll understand just how mighty that is.
And gap to Vettel, 1.4 seconds, fastest lap of the race.
So Hamilton, who started on the dirty side of the grid, which many thought wasn't the place to be, has managed to cope with that and get that race lead. Looking good now. Sebastian Vettel still looking very good in the Drivers' Championship, and 30 seconds clear of Fernando Alonso, who has managed to salvage a podium place as it stands at the moment from a disappointing qualifying, and with the help of his teammate did start on the better side of the grid and has made it up into the podium places. Felipe Massa running fourth. Raikkonen holding up Jenson Button, which will be helping him a touch. As it stands, Red Bull will take the Constructors' Championship here in Austin this afternoon, but the Drivers' Championship will go down to the wire and Sao Paulo. Down to you, Ted.
Yeah, well, I just popped in to McLaren in time for that overtake, to take the lead of the race for Lewis Hamilton. They didn't think it was a silly overtake at all. They thought it was brilliant. Lewis Hamilton's dad, Anthony, as well, punching the air down here. But I think was key, that radio message to Vettel, is focus on the matter in hand. And that is securing the Constructors' Championship and not overstressing your alternator so that we get two cars not scoring any points. Oh, Jenson Button, very close to you. Back to you, David.
Yep, he's had one go, he's had a second go, third go. Door slammed shut in his face once more by Raikkonen, who's positioning that Lotus absolutely spot on to withstand the challenge of the faster McLaren behind him.
Yeah, if Jenson can get clear of that, he's got a chance to have a run at Massa, but Massa now 6 seconds down the road over this squabbling pair, and they're just beginning to drop Grosjean behind them. Both Lotus in the points, but not showing anything like the kind of pace that allowed them to win in Abu Dhabi 2 weeks ago. So Vettel's staying within 1.2 of Hamilton, though.
Yeah, Hamilton just a little bit further quicker, I should say, in the first sector on this lap. But it was interesting, Sebastian Vettel put his best lap of the race in, the lap after he'd been overtaken by Lewis Hamilton. And he is hanging on in there, you know. It's not done and dusted for Lewis, put it that way.
No, Sebastian Vettel's not given up on that. He's not parked that one yet. They're half a minute clear of Alonso.
He's not a man to give up full stop, Sebastian Vettel. Even when the team tell him he's miles clear, he still tries to set faster
Vettel
laps.
was 1/10 faster last lap, but you've gained a 10th on him in sector 1 this lap. Not yet, he's 1.2 seconds behind.
And Jenson Button, breaking news, is in the DRS zone here, Martin. Down the straight we go. Raikkonen edging over in one continuous line to the left-hand side. He's forced Button to go round the outside, but Button, if he can just hang on and go wheel to wheel, there's got the inside line for the next turn. Raikkonen's not going to give this up, but Button has got the better line through turn 14, and this time around he's got 5th place ahead of Kimi Raikkonen.
Supreme. There was about the width of Button's lycra between those two, and neither of them would give up, and they both trusted each other implicitly.
And look how much of an advantage within the space of 4 corners Jenson Button has made there. Now he's free of the Lotus. Now I might step back from this again, Martin, because it's going to get close, isn't it, on the replay?
So he knows that Kimi's just not going to understeer into him, and he was a little bit humbled, Jenson was, when Vettel came past him in Abu Dhabi, but this is world-class driving from both of them. It's hard enough to drive that little bit all by yourself, let alone side by side with an angry Kimster.
Well, there'll be people peeping at that from behind the sofa, those that are not on the edge of their seats at the moment. Great car control. Button, as I mentioned, moves up then into 5th place, and he can start to chase down Felipe Massa again. The action has been hot, and so far for McLaren it's going okay. Lewis Hamilton leads from Sebastian Vettel. Fernando Alonso suddenly the fastest man on the track at the moment, but he's a good half a minute down the road from the championship leader. 1.2 seconds the gap between Hamilton and Vettel at the end of lap 46.
Okay, Jenson, great job. 11 more laps to go, and Massa just up the road.
Is it possible for Button? Can he do it?
His 7.8 drift is going to have to be pretty spectacular to catch that up now. But then Jenson's been spectacular today. I think that's a bit of a tough call, that one, actually, to catch Massa now. It's taken him too long to get past Raikkonen. But Vettel's not given up on Hamilton. It's still very much game on at the front.
Meanwhile, Fernando Alonso just lost a second to the front two on that previous lap. He's salvaged something again, hasn't he, Alonso?
Well, he has. He's half a minute behind. Everything will be turned down now. He's just coasting in. He's not going to catch the two in front. He's hoping to pick up any pieces if they have problems. He's got Massa as his rear gunner behind. So Alonso's freewheeling now to the end of the Grand Prix. But once again, he'll be up on the podium. And interestingly, in the 100 races that Sebastian Vettel's done in F1, and the 3 guys that we all think, most people in the paddock think, are the best drivers in the field, Hamilton, Vettel and Alonso, have never all been on the podium at the same time. Right now, they're all in podium position.
And we are on course for a back-to-back winner of the US Grand Prix, albeit 5 years apart, as Lewis Hamilton comes to complete lap 47. But still ahead, only just from Sebastian Vettel. The gap was 1.2 seconds, it's now 1.4 seconds. Down to you, Ted.
Well, Jenson Button's still attacking. He's been told on the radio that he's the fastest man on the circuit at the moment, which is true, a 40.3 last time round, as opposed to a 40.4 for his teammate, a 40.5 for Sebastian Vettel. They believe that he can close right up to the back of Felipe Massa. The problem is he'll probably do it on the last lap and then the race will be over. But I'm just watching Fernando Alonso quite carefully. This is fascinating to see what he does just to secure this 3rd place and take the championship on to Brazil.
A lot of people will talk long into the night, Martin, after this race, and some will agree with what Ferrari did, playing the team game to help the one man who's got a chance of the championship, and others will say no, it's totally against the spirits of the sports.
There's no such thing as the spirit of the regulations. They're not illegal, others wouldn't be allowed to start the race. The question is whether it's sporting or not, whether it's a reasonable thing to do, but I don't think they had any option, frankly. To keep the championship alive, they had to pull that stroke and take the flag, the inevitable flag.
Okay, Jenson, tyres all in a good state, very good tyres. We can push all the way to the end.
It was a decision that they made, compounded by the wrong decision yesterday to run qualifying on a set of scrub tyres. Everyone else was out in Q3 on a set of new tyres. Ferrari took a couple of sets that had been scrubbed in P3, and maybe that was one of the reasons they were a little further back than they thought, but now the decision's made.
This is interesting, Crofty. Yeah. Vettel's coming back, and why is Hamilton not scampering off now? He's got some clear air in front of him.
4 tenths of a second.
Is Lewis managing fuel? Is he managing something else? Managing tyres? All of a sudden it looks like they've swapped cars, doesn't it? Because that was the kind of rate that we were watching Hamilton catch Vettel under braking, and now it's reversed.
Well, Red Bull wanting to seal 2 championships. They will take the Constructors' Championship here. They won't take the Drivers' Championship, but Vettel can make life a lot easier for himself in Brazil if he can keep closing Lewis Hamilton down. But through this first sector, he's lost 3 tenths of a second, and that'll take him out of the DRS zone. But you're right, Hamilton has not got more than a second and a half ahead of Sebastian Vettel since he took the lead.
I just wonder if he's managing fuel or something. So he should be in the DRS as well now, Vettel.
Well, no, you see, he'd lost time, did Vettel, during the first sector. Either way, he's closed up just a little bit on Hamilton by the time they put the brakes on. Hamilton first on the power, extends away. It's fascinating, this battle, it really is. And Hamilton has been out there on this set of tyres for a lap longer. Is that 1 lap going to make a crucial difference?
I don't think the tyres have lasted as well as they thought, have they? They were both allegedly bulletproof enough to do the entire Grand Prix, but you know, they're not going to fall apart. It's a question of performance rather than endurance, as ever in Grand Prix racing.
Which I suppose is, even though we're into a one-stop strategy here, this is what we're looking for, isn't it? You want something that can be done, but
marginal. Yeah.
You don't want a landslide all the time. You want things to be on a knife edge as long as possible. That's maybe what we're going to get here today. 1.3 seconds, Hamilton's advantage now at the end of lap 49. Here's Bruno Senna, and that's Nico Hülkenberg that was ahead of him, and Senna just cuts across Hülkenberg there. Hülkenberg fights back and manages to keep hold of that 8th place.
Williams clearly geared their cars and trimmed their cars for the back straight, because Senna's been breezing past things. Even when he was up against a DRS car, he was breezing past it. He's been mighty down the straights, the Williams. It's paid dividends.
Started behind his teammate, passed to Maldonado, and currently ahead by about 1.3 seconds at the end of the last lap. There is Maldonado. And the battle for the lower points places, Hülkenberg, Senna and Maldonado, 8th, 9th and 10th, is certainly going to go down to the checkered flag at this rate as well.
Dismal weekend for Sauber. They got completely confused by qualifying. They thought they were going to be doing much better than they were. And right now, Perez up to 11th, just outside the points. Kobayashi 14th. That's a car we thought would be coming through nicely here.
It's going to be a long trudge over the border, isn't it, for the Mexican fans at the end of this. There's still plenty of talk about a Mexican Grand Prix in the future in Formula One as well. Jenson Button has just put in a blistering first sector of a 27.2, but he's just under 6 seconds behind Felipe Massa.
Well, it was 7.6 if you remember when we checked it out earlier on, so he's catching him.
Running out of laps though.
He's running out of laps.
And back we go then to Hülkenberg, Senna and Maldonado, 8th, 9th and 10th. The two Lotuses running pretty much in formation. Ahead of them in 6th and 7th. Maldonado is catching his teammate. Senna wants to try and get past Hülkenberg, but he's going to have to start defending a little bit now. With Maldonado behind him. If the reports are true, this might be one of the last races that Bruno Senna's going to find in Formula One. He will not, for one moment, want to let his current teammate ahead of him. This is going to be a grudge match to end all grudge matches in Texas.
But Senna's been in the points a lot more times than Maldonado, hasn't he? Is it 8 or 9 times in the points compared to Maldonado's 3? Right up the top of my head.
Yeah, 9-3 for Bruno Senna in terms of point scoring, but Maldonado's got that win.
Yeah,
that's what makes the
big one.
And he's got a bit more money that he brings to the sport as well.
A bit.
Just a touch. I don't think money's everything, but it helps.
So then, this is Grosjean catching Raikkonen at quite a rate of knots. I don't think Raikkonen would be cutting Grosjean any slack whatsoever, even if he is a teammate.
You've got two teammates up against each other here, at Lotus and at Williams.
Shows you how well Grosjean would have done without that spin. He'd have been 20 seconds up the road, I think, without that spin, because he was back rear tyres in the gravel, wasn't he? Then he got mugged by a load of traffic when he got going again.
He'd have been in between Felipe Massa and Jenson Button, possibly on that one. Out in front, 5 laps remaining. Lewis Hamilton still clear of Sebastian Vettel, 1.3 seconds ahead of Vettel, who led from the start. Lewis Hamilton got past Mark Webber early on. We lost Mark Webber though to an alternator problem, which is holding up so far in Sebastian Vettel's Red Bull. Fernando Alonso helped by Webber's retirement. He was straight up to 4th at the start, but manages now to be on the podium positions. We see Grosjean locking up in his pursuit of Kimi Raikkonen, having to run wide as a result of it. Lap 42 was when Lewis Hamilton took over the lead of this race, but he's not been able to shake Sebastian Vettel at all in the next 10 laps. It's quite a dish that Formula One has served up here today. Gordon Ramsay might have been proud of that one himself. Was the Williams going for it? Maldonado and Senna out of turn 1, past to Maldonado, squeezes Senna out. And earlier on in the race he was leaving doors open. There was half a jar there maybe, but Maldonado up to 9th place now. And he's going to be hampered by the slower moving Marussia in front of him. See the replay of what happened from Bruno Senna's cockpit. Tried to make the apex, and then suddenly there's Maldonado right at the inside.
Apparently Maldonado just been on the radio, Crofty, to say, can I have a go, and was given permission. I don't think they quite had that in mind, but they got away with it.
Didn't they just? Very, very close. That is a good move, that, by Maldonado. Steaming in at the last moment. Pretty fair. Senna's going to be right on his tail for a while, though, but Anani has been criticised a lot for his overtaking this year. Quite like that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So I like, you suddenly look up and realise, you know you've had a great race when you look up and realise it's the closing laps. And you better be starting thinking about all the other things that happen at the end of a Grand Prix from a commentary point of view. Massa's just done his personal best. Solidly in 4th place, he's got Button covered in 5th.
Yeah, it looks to me like Button's kind of accepted what's going on now, and he's looking either for back markers or for Massa to make a bit of a mistake. And the gap at the front, 1.5 seconds, but Sebastian Vettel in the middle sector has been half a second quicker than Hamilton.
Okay, there should be traffic free till the end of the race now. 3 laps to go at the end of this lap.
And that maybe explains what was holding Lewis Hamilton up.
Yeah, he got himself mixed up in there. It was at least the Marussia, wasn't it? But it's not over till it's over.
And another lap to be completed here. Hamilton was 1.5 seconds clear. Vettel makes the fastest lap of the race, but it's only a tenth quicker. 1.4 seconds the difference. Down to you, Ted.
Yeah, this is fascinating, isn't it? Because with Red Bull, it's so much to lose, and that's really been the view of Jonathan Neal, the race team MD at McLaren, who I've just had a word with. He says there's nothing wrong with the car. We're just telling Lewis what the gap is. We need to keep him out of the DRS zone, which they're doing, only just at the moment. But he also said, we're also thinking about what Red Bull are going to be telling Sebastian Vettel. Surely they won't.
Guys, we're wasting a lot of lap time by not being able to use all of the curves.
And that explains a little bit of Jenson Button's pace differential to Felipe Massa.
So maybe there was a KERS problem for Jenson Button. We'll follow that up later. But yeah, McLaren well aware that Red Bull aren't going to risk anything here. But I wonder if anyone's told Vettel that.
He'll have to settle for second place if that's where he is at the checkered flag, and he will at least, Martin, have the consolation of increasing that championship lead again. He's still got all the aces, hasn't he?
He has, but he loves collecting all the tokens for the league tables, and he likes winning races. And we heard how angry he got just because Hamilton had the audacity to pass him, being quite close to him after he'd moved across the racetrack to block him, it has to be said. So he kicked off in there, didn't he? But at the end of the day, he still gained 3 points on Fernando Alonso, but Fernando Alonso's hung on in there, hasn't he? He's been lucky today, Alonso. He's 35 seconds behind, and there's nobody in that gap between him and Vettel.
Absolutely, and he will go to Brazil still believing that this is going to be his championship. And I'll just repeat the weather forecast again as the Williams gets very close to Hulkenberg and past to Maldonado. Weather forecast, 7 days' time in Sao Paulo is for rain, showers, 40% chance. Bring it on. We'll take some of that. We'll take our Mac as well.
It's always been a wild race in Brazil, hasn't it? It's always been a crazy, crazy race. Alonso knows that. He was the one who stuffed it in the wall there. Was it 2006, was it, or 5? 5, wasn't it? 3. 2003.
He's also the man who won his 2 world championships there as well in Sao Paulo. Alonso, a long way back, but on the podium. His teammate Felipe Massa with the fastest lap of the race and keeping Jenson Button at bay, who has got a KERS problem. And so, in the Constructors' Championship, it is going to be celebrations for Red Bull. They are going to take the Constructors' Championship here today, but it's not going to be the Drivers' Championship that they want. Lewis Hamilton has come to gate crash the party, but with Alonso on the podium, would have been going to Brazil anyway.
What happened if they ever put Lewis Hamilton and Adrian Newey together, as McLaren could have done if they hadn't have let both of them go?
Maybe it might happen one day. You never know. We go then to the final lap of this race. And for Lewis Hamilton, what an afternoon, maybe of redemption it has been. For Alonso, it has been a salvage operation, and he keeps in that title hunt. For Hamilton, it has been a victory that he has felt has been coming his way for a while. That victory that was taken away from him through no fault of his own in Singapore when he was leading, in Abu Dhabi as well when he was leading, and looked absolutely mighty at that track. Here he's had to do it the hard way and shown that he has still very much got it. 1:39.7, fastest lap of the race.
What a great Grand Prix this has been. We've seen some supreme driving, and you have to say Hamilton, for me, has been the driver of the day against a Red Bull that's pretty much dominated this weekend. Vettel didn't have an answer for the pursuing Lewis Hamilton, the championship goes on. But that's certainly been a classic first race here in Austin.
He's a man who created a lot of headlines, Lewis Hamilton, when he won his first US Grand Prix at the first time of asking in 2007 at Indianapolis. He made the back page headlines in the LA Times the week earlier when he won in Canada. Fernando Alonso was his teammate at McLaren then. Still at McLaren for 2 more races. He's returned to the US, and 5 years after his first victory on US soil, Lewis Hamilton sees the checkered flag and wins in Austin the US Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel right behind him takes the fastest lap of the race on the last lap to come home in second place. He's still the championship leader, but he hasn't managed to seal the championship here because Fernando Alonso, after getting a massive helping hand from his teammate Felipe Massa even before the wheels turned this afternoon, is going to come home and take the final podium spot. We go to Sao Paulo. It's game on there. A final race title decider. Hamilton wins. Vettel second, Alonso third, as the 3 men stand on the podium for the first time. Felipe Massa comes home for Ferrari in 4th. They didn't get 2 cars on the podium. They needed to keep the Constructors' Championship alive. So Red Bull win the Constructors' Championship, and behind Button, who finishes 5th, and Raikkonen, who's going to come home for 6th, and Grosjean 7th. Hulkenberg and Maldonado still scrapping all the way to the line. There's Hulkenberg in the Force India, Maldonado and Senna right behind him as well. Grosjean 7th, it's Hulkenberg 8th, Maldonado 9th and Senna 10th to complete the point scoring. McLaren can start their own little celebrations tonight. It is Lewis Hamilton who wins at the Circuit of the Americas.
In an incident between Kovalainen.
Okay, Lewis, that was absolutely fantastic. Awesome drive. That was absolutely fantastic. We were owed that one. Absolutely awesome. Well done.
That was amazing, guys. Woo-hoo! That was wicked. Thank you so much. Fantastic pit stop. Great job all weekend. We definitely deserved that one, guys. We definitely did. Thank you.
Yeah, they were owed it after so many reliability issues that have cost them a Grand Prix victory. He had a little bit of rally crossing there on the way in for Lewis as he tries to gather as much rubbish on his tyres now as he can to add that all in when he gets weighed in, but Vettel still... It's interesting, isn't it, on the Red Bull pit wall there, Crofty. They're not jumping, they've just become the Constructors' Champions for the 3rd consecutive time, an immense achievement. They're not jumping up and down, are they?
They don't want to start celebrating until they've got both championships in the bag. First constructor ever to win their first 3 titles consecutively. Red Bull, they joined rather an elite club of winning 3 in a row as well. But the real celebrations for the drivers will have to start next week in Sao Paulo. It's Hamilton who takes victory here, his 21st win for McLaren, bettered now at McLaren only by Prost and Senna in the team's history. A 12th podium of the podium finish of the season for Fernando Alonso. Only a 2nd podium in the USA, but he's had more podiums than anyone else during the course of this season. And joins Vettel and Hamilton on that podium for the first time. It's more points for Felipe Massa, his 9th consecutive point-scoring race. And whilst Hamilton wins, his new team for next season, Mercedes, Rosberg and Schumacher down in 13th and 16th, a really disappointing race for them. Caterham got the better of Marussia in the race, but they didn't get that 12th place they need to move up in the championship standings. And Hamilton absolutely jubilant with his efforts and his team's efforts. And they were owed one. You feel sooner or later the bad luck has got to run out.
But they took that one. Yeah. It wasn't handed to them, that's for sure. So Vettel was supreme through there. I mean, his start, his first lap, his ability to resist so many laps with Hamilton hunting him down.
So Hamilton pulls into Parc Fermé alongside Sebastian Vettel. Puts his steering wheel in as he should and points to the stars and stripes American girlfriend, of course, very popular man in the States. His dad here to cheer him on, as is McLaren team. One more race to go for McLaren and Lewis Hamilton before he moves on to Mercedes. Meanwhile, at Red Bull, a man who has been celebrating his birthday this weekend is now the youngest man ever to oversee a treble in the Constructors' Championships. Christian Horner, he's with Ted Kravitz.
Well, Christian, you might not have won the race, but you are triple Constructors World Champions. What does that mean to you, to everyone watching this live in Milton Keynes?
It's fantastic. It's all down to the team. You know, we've joined a list of illustrious names. I think there's only 3 other teams that have done it in the history of the sport, and it's incredible. It's something that everybody throughout the team has worked incredibly hard for, and you know, to have achieved it is something, you know, I'm speechless, really.
A matter of how much you're all racers. You're disappointed because you haven't won the race today.
Yeah, the race unfortunately hinged on one back marker that didn't use his mirrors, but you know, that was the difference. It allowed, it cost Sebastian Vettel time. It gave Lewis a clear and easy run under the DRS, but you know, there was nothing between the two of them today. They were trading times all afternoon, and it was that one back marker that cost us. But congratulations to Lewis. He's obviously had bad luck at other races, and it was important to finish ahead of Fernando.
As far as the drivers goes, to Brazil we go.
Yes. No, I mean, I think we're now 13 points ahead of Fernando going into that last race. So you know, still everything to play for, and you know, it's going to be a busy week ahead of us.
Well, a hat-trick of Constructors titles, very well done.
Thank you very much.
Let's go. Oh shoot, I've got to have my suit up. Sorry. Oh, damn it. It's hot out there. Was it hot to watch?
It was. For me, very hot, man.
You're quick, huh? Yeah, I get that. But at the end, you're going to try. I think I can help you a little bit. Anyways, you ready? You're going to need some luck sometimes. You got to tell me what else.
It's yours. Okay. You have the cup?
Yep.
Cool.
Are you serious?
Gotta do Texas style.
Yeah, I bought a Stetson on Wednesday. It seems appropriate that we should all wear the Texan hat and look like a cowboy for once in our lives. But great to see Lewis Hamilton there and Martin Whitmarsh. Sebastian Vettel exchanging with Lewis Hamilton, but Alonso stepping back.
He always does.
Didn't want to be a part of that, did he?
Doesn't want to engage in all that old nonsense, does he? Doesn't want to give anything away.
Well, the horsepower, a little more powerful than they often see in Texas, but the 3 Cowboys on the stage for the first time ever in Formula One. Hamilton, Vettel and Alonso. Anthem, God Save the Queen, playing for Lewis Hamilton and for McLaren as well. Great drive. Was it those 2 laps that Sebastian Vettel got held up behind the back markers that gave him the chance to overtake Sebastian Vettel? Would he have had the chance without those back markers? We can debate that long into the night as the Governor, Rick Perry, presents Hamilton with his winner's trophy. And for his first victory since, of course, the Italian Grand Prix. I wonder if the controller of public accounts is the lady who writes the checks for this race in Texas, presenting the Constructors' trophy. However many checks they've written, Martin, they've got a huge amount back, haven't they, in goodwill and in awareness, and I think also a boost to the Texan economy.
Yeah, it looks a success from where I'm standing, but that's a big relief for Martin Whitmarsh up there, team principal at McLaren. know, he's had some high spots this year, but it's been difficult for him recently. That would be a massive relief for the whole McLaren team. They went and stole the show in the championship showdown that they're not actually part of.
I think, is he saying we can still do this?
I would imagine that's what he always says, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think pointed messages to his team that are down there below. We can still do this, but it's champagne time.
Maybe right.
For Hamilton on top, reborn in the USA, Lewis Hamilton, after such bad luck recently, is finally a winner once more in Formula One. Great smiles for McLaren. And he wanted to fight. He said, I just want to drive. I just want to go out there and have fun. The pressures of the championship battle are freed from him now. I dare say there'll be a few more pressures on his shoulders next year as he tries to lead Mercedes and turn their fortunes around. 6 races now consecutively that his new team haven't scored a point in Formula One. A disappointing afternoon for them today. We'll wait to hear the drivers' thoughts on the podium. There's more caps, and this time microphones are handed around.
Ladies and gentlemen, to interview the drivers on the podium, please welcome former world champion and all-time American racing legend, Mario Andretti.
Okay, cowboys, how about coming down to my level? First of all, on behalf of the Circuit of the Americas, I want to thank all the fans for obviously helping make this an incredible comeback of Formula One to America, and obviously we're here to stay. And we just witnessed an awesome race. I mean, fought right to the very end. Lewis, I know you really tormented Sebastian for most of the race, but I mean, you had the resolve, and you did a fabulous race. And what I'm interested in it, give me some reaction, your reaction about the circuit. Obviously, everything's new. First winner, first-time winner, and all of that.
First-time winner, yeah. I'm so happy. The fans have been amazing this weekend, so thank you so much. The warm welcome we've had has been fantastic, and I think this is probably one of the best, if not the best Grand Prix we've had all year, and especially for me and my team, this is so special. It's been a long time since I've had a win, and I'm just so proud of the work the guys did, so grateful for the support we've had.
Congratulations. Now, Sebastian, obviously you did everything you needed to do to protect your lead in the championship. As usual, you were fantastic with your qualifying and so forth. And the obvious question again is your reaction to the new circuit here this week.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you very much. As Lewis said, it was incredible. Obviously, actually, I did my first race 5 years ago, the last time we were racing in the United States. So it's a very nice comeback. Today was my 100th Grand Prix. And amazing, the amount of people we had all weekend. It's great for us to have so much support. I'm very happy today for the team in particular. We won the Constructors' Championship, so thanks to all of you. It has been a great year. Now we've got another station coming up in Brazil, and as you said, I think in terms of championship it's looking a bit better after the race today. Obviously it was a close fight with Lewis. He had one chance and he took it, so after that I tried to stay with him and maybe pass him again, but he was probably as quick as I was, so there wasn't much in between us. All in all, a great race and a great result for us.
Congratulations. Obviously the fight continues right to Brazil, and it's going to be the culmination of a wonderful season that we have seen. Now, Fernando, as usual, you've been brilliant the entire season. Fantastic start, as usual again. You've always done your very maximum, and here again, you've kept this championship fight still alive. So we're fighting to the end, obviously. And the same question to you: how about the circuit? How you like it? Did you enjoy the ride? What's your reaction?
Yeah, as Luis and Sebastian said, the circuit was fantastic, but the fans were fantastic all weekend, and we we really enjoy, and we really have to say big thanks for all the fans coming here, all the Americans, the Mexicans, and all the South America that came also to support us. And and it was thank you. You see, so the circuit is amazing, and the layout is interesting, challenging for us, challenging for the engineers. But as I said, we enjoy racing here thanks to the fans, thanks to the fantastic facilities, and I hope we put a good show for everybody, and people will enjoy even more next year.
Yes, absolutely. Here we have 3 world champions right here on the podium. You couldn't ask for anything better. So thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you.